You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of Haunted Connections. I'm Neil and my co-host as normal is Jane.
Hi everybody.
How are you tonight, Jane?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, all good.
Working hard still?
Oh yeah, always working hard. But it's not too bad. Got to pay the bills, haven't you?
Yeah. Tell my bank manager that one. Okay, my guest tonight is Charlene Lowe Kemp from Paranormal Hauntings. Hi, Charlene.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Charlene.
Hi, Jane.
Of course, I think you've got Amy with you as well, haven't you?
I have. I've got my team member Amy with me tonight.
Okay.
Hi, Neil and Jane.
Hi. So, okay then. Let's start the show off with the first question. Tell people, if people don't know who you are, Charlene, tell all our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm Charlene. I am owner of Paranormal Haunting. I've had that page for around 18 months now. I've had the group fairly longer, about two years. I was an investigator for another team previous to that for 6 years. And then before that I did events. But currently up to now we collect haunted items, as yourself, Neil, as you know.
Yeah, that's what we're focused on tonight.
Yeah. I've been collecting them for numerous years and actually had my first experience with the item when I did events. That was what triggered an interest in items for me. Yeah. But we go out to a lot of urban places as well, don't we? Yeah. At the minute we're doing a lot of urban exploring as well.
We like untouched locations.
Yeah.
With you know what people don't really know about.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of that recently. We do private houses, just recently done a station house, helping the lady with that, and her son mainly. So we've got our hands in all pies at the minute, haven't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
It sounds it. So what was the first item that got you interested in these items then?
My first ever item, like I say, must have been about 7 years ago, and I purchased it. You know, one of them EMF dolls.
Yeah.
Just from an equipment shop. In fact, it was from Dan Litchfield. He used to sell equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought her, and I took her around numerous locations. And at first we got really nothing with her, you know, EMF wise. And then I started a pattern, started emerging when she started triggering off. And it was like I would speak and it would set off. And it was like, at the time I thought to myself, is it like a spirit guide confirming?
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, obviously eliminated all possible causes, phones, stuff like that, you know. I mean, one night we was at Lowe. At that time we didn't live stream or anything, so all phones was off. It was, you know, there would have been no explanation for them EMF going off because there's nothing there to trigger off any magnetic fields around it. So anyway, I take the dome and I'm thinking this doll has picked up an attachment from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at my old footage of me from then going from previous teams swapping over, you know, I take this doll out, and this doll was called Molly, and I used to I think this doll has got an attachment from a location somewhere.
Yeah.
So that is what did trigger it off. I then started researching into it more. I looked at a lot of Jane Harris work on spirit attachment, and a lot of her research that went into it, and I just completely and utterly got the concept. And I have still got this doll now, but the EMF's broken, so she don't actually light up. But I have still got her. So she was the first item originally I got that made me look into spirit attachment in items.
All right. So you've been doing that for quite a few years then?
Yeah, because then what happened is a few years further down the line from that, I was part of Project Paranormal, and Dave Barrett, who owns that, he says to me, Jane Harris is selling a doll. And this was back in 2016. And we was like, I'm like, Dave, you've got to get her. Obviously, because I've always followed Jane's research anyway, and to have an item to come from her, it was like, yeah, I've got to have it. So we purchased her. And she wasn't much. Jane didn't sell her for a massive cost. She sold her because she wanted to put the money back into another project she had going off. She didn't have a lot really with her. It was that the family had bought her from like a charity shop. They brought her back home. They'd had light switch flicker, nightmares, and had like the smell of mothballs around her. Jane didn't really report much with her apart from having a light bulb blown. So I was like, okay, this sounds like a good item to carry on with. So we started researching her, and as soon as Dave got her, Dave received like a burn on his wrist. Sorry, my dog's barking, folks.
Yeah, can hear it.
And so Dave's not that kind of person to say things, scratch him. And he says to me, I know don't tell anyone, Sharp, it sounds daft, but I think took the dog and I've like kind of mishandled her a bit, and I think she's burnt me. And I said, we'll not tell anyone. Like at the time, I said, don't worry. I said, send her to me, because he said, Karen, my wife, don't want it in the house. We don't want it in the house. So they sent it down to me, and that's when my research on items properly started. And she proved to have some interesting results. And she is actually back with me now as well. Dave's gave her me. So, but funnily enough, she's come to me, and I've not had anything with her, but everyone she seems to be loaned out to seems to have something happen with her.
All right.
Tends to be men mainly, which
They still like men.
I don't think so. Like I say, personally myself, I've not had what other people's reported with her.
It's interesting.
I've loaned her out, and she's had interesting results with everyone else who's had her. So that looks good on my part, really, because I'm not saying it's me all the time, which sometimes I think people don't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good when you get when other people sort of get the activity from the same item, because that then becomes more than coincidence, doesn't it?
And I think even when you get a skeptical person of items and they have that item, such as Simon, we went up to Scotland when I went to get because her name's Elizabeth. We went to get her back, and we was having a joke with him. Didn't really say to him what she was really about as such. And we went up to Scotland, and he picked her up, he took her out the bag, and he received a scratch on the forehead. He then said, I want to take this doll home, Charlene. And he carried this doll around with him with so much respect. We was gobsmacked, because like I say, before that, he didn't believe, if you'd have said, is a doll haunted, he would have laughed at you. extremely skeptical into it.
Yeah.
And I can say you took this doll back home, and he hasn't said everything he experienced with her. He's said bits and bobs, and he don't really tell a lot of people because he says it sounds daft that it's all come from a doll. But he is more open-minded to the spirit attachment in items now, which is good. It's good. I think you've got to experience something yourself to believe in it, ain't you?
Oh, I think so. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's the good part about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what happened there.
So, Charlene, how many items have you collected so far? How many items have you got in your collection? And do you have a favourite?
I actually don't know how many I've got in there.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
You've got some that you don't really say anything about that any paranormal investigator would be in awe of.
Yeah. I don't show them off.
You don't know.
No.
Got items that belong to Ray and Ed Warren. And I don't really show them off. I wouldn't really work with them to see what had come through with them items, just in regards to respect, especially because Lorraine's not long passed as well. And obviously these items was purchased before she passed. Actually, she was selling them off for a charity that she was trying to raise money for. So I actually had them items before she passed away, but to then work with them now, I think would probably be a bit disrespectful. But I have put them in there, and we did do some experiments in the garage, didn't we? And we found that activity decreased.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Made it. Yeah, and obviously I think their items would be of a protective kind.
Yeah.
I think,
Very personal items that you've got of Lorraine's. Like there's a brooch, things that she would have worn that would have her energy around
a scarf.
Yeah.
I've got Ed Warren's glasses. Very personal items. I've also had items sent to me on loan to study. Haven't we, Amy?
Yes. I know you're going to talk about.
And
on Zen. Which is the interesting one that you're laughing about?
We had a doll sent over to us from Spookology.
Yeah.
And we did a 3-day study on her, didn't we?
We did.
And she was the bestest doll to provide evidence I think I've ever worked with. And as you know, I did used to co-own the bridal doll.
Yes.
And the evidence that Lottie put up against the bridal, I'm sorry, but hands down, that doll had more about it.
We were both texting each other actually throughout the 3-day period, and even after.
Yeah.
She was always on our minds, and I couldn't wait to get back up here to work with her with Charlene. We wanted to get through to see if there was a child attached to this doll and stuck, because we sort of felt like she was stuck.
Yeah.
And we became protective over her.
Yeah.
Emotionally attached, as if she was an actual child.
Yeah, because, I mean, it come from a family. It'd been sent to them. And, you know, the background story of it was just brilliant. And it was more historical, more factual, and just felt a lot more genuine in just what she was providing us as well. And we studied for 3 days. We had personal experiences in there as well. I had a carving put on my daughter's sideboard, and I don't know how that got there. I didn't find it. My husband found it. My husband is sceptical, and he says to me, "Have you brought something back home with you?" And it's funny you said that, because I've just got a doll in my possession. So on the personal level, what we experienced personally was just phenomenal. And I've sent her back now, so she is back with spookology. But you know how you get an item and they always have that place in your heart.
Oh, definitely. I think you do get emotionally attached to some items. I know I am up here. So there's quite a few items I will never ever part with. I'm sure Jane feels the same.
Yeah, I do.
You become their caregiver, I think.
Yeah.
And you build an attachment up with that item because it's an attachment with what used to be a person, if you believe in them.
Yeah, definitely. I think I do think it's a fascinating subject, I must admit.
Yeah.
But I know when I first said I was looking into haunted objects, quite a few people said I was mental because there's no such thing. But people like yourself and people like us and other people who've got haunted collections are proving that spirits do attach to items as well. So anyway, we've got a comment from Kelly. What if, she's going back to your first doll with the EMFs, she says, what if the spirit is attached to you but talks to you through the doll?
Well, that's what my first initial thought was. Was it like a spirit guide giving me confirmation?
Yeah.
That's why I was exploring different options on what it could be. And tried different trigger points to, different equipment to see if I was getting the same. Because if it was something following me, surely it would be able to do it on a normal EMF device. It didn't have to just be the doll. If I said, if it's such and such following me around, can you then affect that device? Do you see what I'm saying? It didn't seem to do that. It was more coming from the doll.
Yeah.
Which made me feel, was it something to do with the doll?
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense perfectly. Okay, the people listening, if you've got any questions for Charlene, please join in with the chat. Okay, we've got Linda now. Linda Brooks says, I wonder what happens when a spirit feels they no longer need to be attached to an item and they choose to leave the item in question. What are the spirit's feelings and emotions at that time? Something to think about. So, have you got any thoughts on that?
I've actually got an item that I was given it, and they said that it'd come from America, it'd gone to them, it'd come in their house, and it's set on fire. And did I want, because they didn't want it in the house no more. So I said, yeah, I'll have it and I'll take it back.
Yeah.
And I've not had a thing happen with it. And I tried to do a live with it to see if anything, would happen, if we could get any type. Absolutely nothing. And everyone on that live picked up that they thought that something had been attached, but the fire had released it.
All right.
Like combusted it.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting theory for me. It was like it had been removed from its original home, so it didn't want to be with anyone else. So it just
released itself.
Because the doll actually had mechanics in it.
Yeah. So
for it to obviously cause a fire.
So what you're saying then, that the spirit wants to stay with its owners rather than with the doll?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And in regards to clearing items, I think that spirit would have to go for you to clear it. Obviously, if they are with an item, it's because they may want to be attached to that item. I mean, you've got to be careful, because if something's been summoned to an item, that's different. It don't necessarily want to be there, but with an item, there's got an attachment as such.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
a spirit obviously wants to be attached to that item because it's protecting it. That's how I will see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, like Amy said, a reminder of their life. So
yeah. Okay, we've got a comment from Paul. Could you not just manifest a spirit from your own belief and assume it's an attachment to an object you just happen to have in front of you?
No.
Not the way that Charlene looks at things, no. I think that she goes into every item with a very clear head, and she structures her investigation in such a way that, you know, she scientifically looks at it. She just doesn't, you know, say that's haunted and that's that.
Yeah.
No, the EVPs that she gets has to correlate with the history she's got. You know, she makes sure that evidence correlates with each other before she says that could be paranormal. You know.
Yeah, that's good.
There's got to be links in. There's got to be relevance there for me, I think. And like I say, every item in my garage, I wouldn't claim that has got an attachment. It's supposed to have an attachment, but if asked if it's got an attachment, I'd say personally, no, this item don't, because I've not added anything with it. You know, there is some items in there that I would say, yeah, potentially, I think that there is something there. I've had this, and this, and it's made me believe that, you know, there is something there with it.
Yeah.
I think others could buy an item and give the idea of what's attached to it for then there to be what manifest of something there, an attachment there, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think it could, but I am like that personally.
Definitely not.
I might be blowing my own trumpet. I don't know, but
no. I agree with you.
Could say
it's very easy for people to say this for example, this doll. It's easy to say this doll has got an attachment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then make your own evidence up. And then I think whether it's embedded into your head that you actually do believe it's haunted. So I know you don't do that sort of thing, because I know you, and I know we don't do that sort of thing up here. Because one thing that we do say to everybody, that we don't say all the items in the centre are haunted.
No.
We never make that claim. Well, you've been here a few times, Charlene, so we never say the items are haunted. It's up to other people to do their own research and investigation on the items as well, and combine their investigations of what we got from it.
You see, with that is what I'd rather have. I'd rather have an item that has interested me, anything for anyone, and just give it them for a week, like I did Simon, and say, right, let's see what you experience with that.
Yeah.
And then for him to come back to me and say, I've had nightmares. Could this link? I've never had nightmares. You know, could this be linked to the doll? Well, yes, nightmares is linked to her.
Yeah.
There is a common pattern with what you're experiencing. So I'm kind of not implanted that into his head before he's had that, which is what you're doing. Your people are coming into your museum and you're not telling them anything about your items. They're going through the item and feeling, and then if they're right in what they're feeling, you then confirm it. That actually, yes, other people's had that, or yes, that is the history with that. And I think that is the way you've got to go about it, instead of somebody coming in and saying, well, this is haunted by, you know, Zozo, or do you know what I mean? Like,
Zozo gets everywhere, doesn't he?
He does.
He does. But do you see what I'm saying? You know, and everyone stands around here and you're going to get an headache because, you know, if somebody says that to you, the likelihood is you're probably going to experience an headache because suggestions been put there, isn't it? So,
we've got a comment from Kelly. If a house can hold energy and cause emotional energy to be released, then I imagine the same can work for any item that was loved. But if we're looking at it from a personal level, then just as we love a child or pet, then anything they leave behind in their passing is something we feel attached to. Maybe our minds do sometimes make us believe there's something more to it than there is.
I don't know. Maybe. The
mind can make you believe things. I think everybody knows how powerful. Well, nobody knows how powerful the mind is, but we do know that it can play tricks on you, and that it can make you believe that something's there when it may not be. Just as like a grieving mother might feel her child's presence. Well, if she feels that child's presence and if it's bringing her comfort, why not? You know. But the role Charlene takes on with her items is from a more scientific than a personal level.
Yeah.
You've got, sometimes she doesn't even research the item before she investigates it. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes you research it after
to see if it links up.
And if it links, then there's possibly something there.
So then you've not got that personal link, have you?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay, Kelly's made another comment. I can agree that Neil does not say that he's very good indeed. I don't know what she means by that. But I do believe that spirit can be attached to something, but trying to work out how or why, it's down to the believer.
It's
You still there?
It's to opinion, really, isn't it? My opinion is that a spirit could be attached to it because it felt close to it in life.
Yeah.
So I think it's all down to what your opinion on why. Are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
It's hard to know how or why. I mean, nobody knows how or why really, but you just take from what evidence you get.
Yeah.
And, you sort of make up your mind from there, from the evidence.
I mean, it's like with ghosts in general, and everybody has an opinion, on whether they exist, whether they don't exist.
Yeah.
And they've not been proven to exist. So to even go over that mark, you and say that you believe, you're always going to have someone skeptical in the background saying, well, it's not been proven, and it's then that when your opinions come into it on things, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I got a comment from Linda. I do believe that spirits see some items a lot differently to what we do. One example, a spirit who I was communicating with saw my EDI as a telephone. Weird, I know, but to us as humans in the physical, an EDI looks nothing like a telephone. Spirits can perceive items differently to us. I guess it's something I personally never thought until recently. Yeah.
That is interesting, actually, and she raises a good point.
Yeah.
Because, if you're communicating with a spirit you believe to be from the 1980s, say 1990s, and they used to have big, massive mobile phones, and if you stick a millimeter down, I'd say, right, come and talk to me through that. Yeah, I can kind of see why they may think it's a telephone,
Yeah.
It looks very similar. And then you've got to raise them questions that, well, how do ghosts from the 1800s know how to work an EMF meter when they'd never have seen an EMF meter? Or how would they have known how to work an EDI meter when, such things weren't even about then? It's true,
Yeah, that's right.
they really, if you think about it in theory, they wouldn't know what all this equipment is, really, would they?
No,
they wouldn't. Okay,
especially if they have to work it.
Yeah, another comment from Paul. It's about Zozo. He says, "Don't talk to me about Zozo. I tell him to go forth and multiply quite often." Another comment from Paul. Does a spirit get anything out of being attached to an item? If not, why get attached to a doll when it can stay at home or another place where they were happy?
Well, again, it's my opinion, and my opinion is they'd be attached to an item because they may have looked after it in life. Yeah. So why are they not looking after it in death?
I've got an opinion on this one.
Go on then, Amy.
I've got an opinion.
Go on then, Amy. What's your opinion?
I think, such things, there's a lot of haunted dolls out there. I think dolls are played with quite often, every day, if not, there's a lot of energy going around the doll. The doll's being played with, it's being picked up by a life force, if you speak. Yeah. So it's easily fed off of, if you believe that spirits feed off of life forces, isn't it?
Yeah.
So objects that are used more and more and more in everyday life.
Yeah.
I think that, it's an interesting...
They've got like an energy imprint, if you like.
Yeah, it's like a constant transference of fresh energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say if they had a strong connection with it in life, they'd probably have a strong connection to it in death.
Yeah.
And guard it. That would be my opinion on it.
Yeah.
But like Amy says, if you use something every day and it has an energy imprint on it from being used a lot by yourself, looked after, guarded, then yeah.
That's how we do up here, isn't it? As we say, there's the doll. The items may not be haunted, but they've got energy around them.
Yeah, I don't think something is in a doll. When I talk of haunted items, I wouldn't say a spirit lives in a doll.
Yeah.
I'm not talking possession of a doll by a spirit. I'm talking a spirit is around that item.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Even to be summoned to an item, I still wouldn't say the spirit is in that item. I would still say it's been summoned around the item to be forced back to it as a grounding point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, then. There seems to be a bit of an influx on haunted object museums lately.
I thought this might come up.
This is going to come up. Now, I don't want you to mention names or anything.
Okay.
But why do you think there's such an influx of haunted object museums? They're springing up in the last year. They're springing up 10 to a penny, aren't they?
Yeah, we've seen about 4 now, 4 others.
Yeah.
After.
Can I be honest? I mean, I know you own a museum, so I don't want you to take offence, Neil.
Okay.
But I think it's for money.
Yeah.
And I think these museums are a product. And obviously this product has got to generate money.
Yeah.
And 1 minute. My dogs are going to go. Come on, Amy, just come in here. My dogs are going to end up having a scrap.
Oh,
They'll stop in a mo. They'll be on. So, I think it's a product for them, and they've got to generate money at the end of the day, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so I've seen recently, and like you say, I'm not going to mention names, but something's been in the paper.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a competition there, and I'll probably get thingy for saying about a competition. But I think that a competition does exist there because there is a market there, and they need to grab in who they can. So they've got to look a bit more better than everyone else.
Go one further.
They've got to go one that step further. Look, you know, we've had this happen here. Come here, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, is it for general research? I think some of them are.
Right.
I think some of them are. That's my thoughts. But I don't want you to take any offence, Neil. Because not that I think, because, you know, I think personally, you're the only person out of all the museums that hasn't said, I've got this here and I've had this, and, you know, made a really OTT statement.
Right. No, I
You're
haven't.
the only one that I haven't seen make an OTT statement to sell it.
Yeah.
Which says to me that it is more genuine in what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've been here quite a few times, haven't you?
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate you keep coming back. And I know full well if I say, do you fancy coming down in a fortnight? If you're free, you'll say yeah.
Yeah.
And
the team love it. I mean, the team absolutely loved it, and I will admit, Neil, you know, I came and I was quite sceptical the first time.
Yeah, I remember.
And you know, we had a lot happen, and then I brought the team back with me the second time, and they too were somewhat sceptical. Yeah. And then they walked through the door, and Chrissy just gave off information she didn't know about the museum, which I don't think she would have found, and I think even surprised you to a degree. And, you know, and the flight was brilliant.
I think every member of the team that night had, like, we had a general experience as a team, but I think we all had little personal experiences. Yeah. I mean, I know I was stood, I didn't know what I was stood in front of until you actually came over and pointed it out, but I got all very emotional. Yeah. And I don't really get emotional. I'm not that kind of person. And you said, well, do you know what that is? And I said, no. And you went, that is soil from Sharon Tate's backyard. And I just, that were it then. Yeah, I had to walk out. But I think we've all experienced things as a team, as a whole, but then had those little tiny, you know, personal experiences at your museum. And it's just got that feel about it, hasn't it?
Yeah. And like I say, you know, everyone came in and you don't influence them to say anything. There's not any like tags saying what's what or any OTT signs against any item, like, for instance, an exorcist Bible, to then think, okay, well, this must have been in some kind of demonic case then. You've got nothing like that. You have got the lighter side and you have got the darker side. So you have got that. But you've got nothing pinpointed on the wall for any kind of suggestion in any way.
No, that was always important to us.
Which I think is good. Because then
like you just said, we don't owe OTT on Facebook and things saying, oh, we've got this, we've got that. But sooner people come in and say, is that such and such? And we can say yes or no. So that's how I sooner have it. So,
and I think you're going the right way with that, Neil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have another free night then.
Neil.
Your 50p's in the post. Okay, we're getting some comments. Richard says, in occult circles, objects are used in ritual, but the general consensus is they are used to focus on. Could this be the same for supposing haunted objects? But it's not the object itself that contains the spirit, but the intention of the person working with it.
Yeah, I would say it's an instrument used in a cult, used in a ritual, So potentially that energy could be, because it's used in that, the energy could come forward from that, if that makes sense, because it's used in its energy in something like that.
I mean, I think if a person is quite in a dark mindset and they're sort of trying to summon something to an item, like you said, it's the intention. It's always, I mean, a lot of witches will tell you it's not magic as in magic. It's your intention and belief that it's going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd agree with that. Intention is everything. Yeah. And when you've got someone negatively focusing on an object that wants it to negatively either impact someone else, I think, I think, definitely it's gonna.
Yeah. We're getting quite a few comments now. I'll try and read them all off. Kelly's back on. Hey guys, what if spirits are attached to items because they love them? Oh my God, can you imagine a few years' time how many weed grinders there will be? Then Kelly says, Paul, you should see Neil's museum. There's so many different items, not saying they're all haunted, but by gosh, it's fascinating. And Paul says, I've been there, Kelly, for 48 hours. Laugh out loud. Didn't see any Lego sets or action men. Then Paul says, and I'm going back, I love HAPRC. Kerry says, I'm coming with you next time. Then Kelly says, you can't take offence to that. Geez, events companies make money on venues and can't guarantee they're haunted.
Yeah.
Paul says, that's because Neil runs a research centre and not a museum, is the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And Neil, you've got to stick with that to. I mean, they're obviously going to say it's for research. They're obviously going to say that they're researching their items and such. But
but I think that's the insane at the minute, isn't it?
There's a mile off. You can see the difference. You just can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh, I like all this. Well, I can categorically say we're not going to change.
No,
we're not going to change our approach to things, or I'm not. I haven't got an ego, and I know Jane hasn't got an ego. None of the team have got an ego.
And we have a lot of people coming up to the centre who just really enjoy being up here. And we've said about some of the research, and it is going to take a long time, because if you get one person coming in and holding an item, and it's they experience something, then that's interesting in itself. But when you get 10 people over a period of time holding the same item and experiencing the same thing, that's going to take some time to sort of collect and record and everything else. So that's sort of one of the things that we're working on with a lot of the items.
Mm.
And I think that's what you need to do and document, document everything that has had similarities.
That's right.
I just think for the future generations.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for a few months now, that, in years and years to come, when there's other investigators coming along to research the field who are not in it for their entertainment or on fame or whatever, who are genuinely interested in the research, that there's something there for them to look up, to try and follow and try and better, because, the field needs to progress. And everyone's not going to agree on everyone's methods of investigation, but there's a baseline there for them to look at and think, okay, this is what these did. We have this item. We are at this location now, or we are studying this piece of land now. What can we do better from their research, and what did they get? Can we compare that to ours?
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's,
it's important.
That's important, and that's not going to, I know full well that's not going to get me, in the present time, fame or money or whatever, but that is our goal, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That is our main goal.
Because we said when we went to the private house we did just recently, I mean, Charlene said it actually, not as a team, but Charlene said, if somebody moves into this house in, 50 years time and they start having phenomena happen and they start to look into the land or some, the house itself, that, paranormal, there'll be a blog
done by us to say, actually, we've done an investigation there, and this is what was produced. This is what's with the land. This is what we found out. So then, if they want, they can then carry that on. And it's just the same with items, Neil. You don't know where your items will go when you go, and in time they may go to another team. Or if your kids decide to do it, your grandkids decide to do it, they need to look at what evidence you got, and if there's something there written.
That's right.
You can follow that.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the next generation and giving them the tools, isn't it?
Yeah.
When Neil goes, apparently he's being stuffed and being put in the corner. We're going to keep him.
I'm not surprised.
I don't understand you laughing. I'm serious.
With an EMF meter in his hand.
Well, I'm glad you said in my hand.
No, but on a serious note, I do categorically believe that science will be able to prove without a doubt that there is life after death. I just don't think we've got the technology yet. I think as it progresses, the technology will become available in the future for them to actually prove that there is life after death and that spirit, does exist.
I think it would be handy if we establish some kind of guideline to work from.
Yes.
If invested some kind of guideline for us to work on, if we could dab into where they've researched up to, and then for us to, see the set of standards that they've used, even though it's failed because it's not proven it, but, you could take other avenues from the research they've done to try and at least prove it. At the minute, there is no guidelines.
No.
There is no guidelines. So people are using apps, and what everyone's going to say is it's not genuine because it's from a device. It's been input. It's from banks. That's never going to prove anything. And to be honest with you, it never is going to prove anything. And people are highly skeptical of apps. There's no guidelines to say, is there, exactly? And it's like even with EVP work, there's no guideline. Well, there is the best practice to use to do an EVP session. But for it to be even considered, you can put it to the EVP study science, and they'd consider it if you followed a certain amount of guidelines that it could be phenomena. But it's not widely known what them guidelines are.
No.
And, I just think, no one knows the answers on how to do it, and to get any kind of guidelines would be hard. But until we've got something, I don't think it will ever be proven.
Yeah, but you mentioned the apps, and I must admit, until I think it was the last time you came down, or the time before last, you came down and you did a session on the back stairs, didn't you?
I did.
You remember? Up until that moment,
because I finished you, didn't I?
Up until that moment. That session, Ada says, I would never ever use an app.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really fascinating. The responses you were getting.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, when we went back into the science room, it went back to normal to me.
Yeah.
A lot of it's random. I find apps, a lot of it's random.
Yeah.
And that's what you were getting in the science room, wasn't it? It was a lot of random words.
It's how you use it.
But on the back stairs, you were getting sentences.
Yeah, and stuff that I didn't know. So there was no way I could have inputted that information, sent messages about that for that even to be in the app or to be picking up any kind of messages or emails, because it says, people say, well, it can dab into your emails, your media, your Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But that was coming out with information that only you knew, Neil.
Yeah, that's right. And,
yeah,
and it was you guys talking out, not me. I was just basically, I think it was members live feed, wasn't it? So I was basically filming the members watching, and it was coming out with sentences in response to what you were saying, and I was saying, yeah, that's right, yeah, we know that, and so that sort of swayed me a little bit, thinking apps aren't rubbish.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the way you use them. If we're not getting anything, and it's got to be relevant for me, or isn't it? It's got to be relevant for us. So, like the private house investigation last week, we hardly really used it, but we used the word generator, didn't we?
Yeah.
But everything that came through fitted with where we were. Just bang, bang, straight after the other. Now, that for me was too much of a coincidence.
As soon as you switched it on, it's the steam.
Yeah, and it was a steam engine house.
An old station.
Yeah, an old station. So as soon as I turned it on, it said steam. Well, it was the location, Neil. You know that. There's no denying that. And I put it on a tablet that's not connected to any Google device, any... I've just downloaded it from the official site, Windows sensors. It's got no personal information, no messages go on there, no emails, no nothing. So that can't be picking up anything what I talk to people about. And I think that's one of the key things that you've got to do with apps is put it on a device that is a blank device. Yeah. I don't think the phones are really that good because it potentially is picking up on things that you may be sending, so you've always got that contamination there. So I'd advise if anyone wants to use apps for experimental, to put it on a device that's got nothing stored on it, just a blank device, and see what you do, see what you get then. And I think you don't ever knock it until you've tried it is a big thing.
Oh yeah, okay. What sort of item would you like to get next then, Charlene, for your collection?
I'm hoping to have one of yours. Salone.
Oh yeah, you
promised me one, Neil.
Yeah.
But we did find a potential item.
What you found?
Oh,
which we are going
to
fetch.
Yes, we have. Yes.
Is it a bride doll?
No.
Like, I couldn't resist it.
Got that T-shirt, Neil. Long time ago. No, we went to a location and we was getting really dark replies really from the location that we was at, and we was like, this don't make sense. And there was this symbol on this blank board, and it didn't go with the rest of the graffiti in the abandoned building, because you get to graffiti in abandoned buildings, don't you? But these was really, really something else, wasn't there? There was a professional artist had done these.
Symbol.
Yeah. But the symbol on this board was completely different. It was just scattered on the back wall. We was getting really, really dark replies. We didn't know what this symbol meant at the time.
Yeah.
And we started getting more near that, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I said, if I took this board home, what will happen to me? And it was like, I will curse you.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just a really, really interesting session. And I said to everyone watching, should I go back and take this board? Should we go and get the board? And I did try and go back and get it, but couldn't get it back in the car. Because it's just a piece of plywood that had got like a symbol on it, but I think it had been used in something personally. We all kind of felt that.
You said it was really heavy, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was really heavy.
And then not just that, but since we've been, other teams have been, and they've experienced some dark things happen in exactly the same spot, and they didn't know what we'd done there or seen what we'd done there. And I thought, our evidence compared to them suggested that what we got,
it matched.
It matched, if you like. So that may be my next item.
Oh, right, that'd be interesting to do then. Okay, Paul's come and comment about the apps. Apps will be pre-programmed data, so they can't be trusted.
Yeah, I mean,
Paul's comment.
they're never. Everyone hates. I find some 8 apps, a lot 8 apps, but some will experiment with them.
But it's down to your own individual choice, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the main important thing is that everyone will say, "Oh, people only use apps because they want to entertain people," and it's not that. There is an ITC research out there, and it falls under that. And there is people who are extremely passionate in regards to apps. And it's not all for entertainment purposes. It's not. There's some people that really do put a lot of thought and a lot of research and a lot of time into thinking things.
Creating them.
Yeah.
People create them there.
Yeah, and they're not getting money for creating them. They put them on for free. And there is a lot of thought in behind what they've done. And I don't think there is some apps there that are purely out there for entertainment. I do agree, but I don't think that all of them are. I think some of them are there for research purposes as well, even though some will say that they can't be trusted because they're an app, they're on a device. But, my theory is if spirit can manipulate lights, spirits can manipulate energy fields, why can't spirit manipulate a device? How many times have you heard someone say, my phone's rang, I've had a really weird call, and people, they felt like they've got, it was from a past relative, or they've had a text message from a past relative, or, the radio's come on out of the blue, and it's been singing a song.
Or people be seeing stuff in the sort of the white,
the
static on the TV when it's off a channel.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same theory, really, because they are affecting an electrical device. That's how I see it. It's manipulation of electrical device.
That's great. Okay, we've only got 2 minutes left of the show now. So
Sorry.
That's okay. It's been really interesting. I think everyone's enjoyed it. Our guest next week is Lee Rebecca, who we have spoken. I've spoken to before. You weren't there that week.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to speaking.
So that'll be interesting. It was really interesting when I talked to her before. So I'm looking forward to that one. Coming up, I've got to mention this. Coming up after this show, you've got Paul and Kerry with their show. Stay tuned on this Power Search Radio to listen to them. It still says 2 minutes to. So what plans have you got for the future? Quickly, Charlene. What, a minute?
What plans have we got for the future, Amy? We're just taking it as it comes. We're documenting everything we do.
Yeah. We like to keep our ideas and our cards close to our chests.
We do.
All right.
But because to be continued, we say that.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. So I tried to, but I've got a bit of a big mouth. So I do tend to blab it out, don't I, Jane? And Jane looks at me when I start saying things. She looks at me thinking, "Shut up, Neil." So I want to say thank you to Charlene and Amy for being our guests.
Yeah,
it's been great.
It's been lovely. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good. Always interesting talking to you guys. Thanks to Jane for being co-host. And it's 9:00 now, so thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you next Tuesday, same time.
Yes. So good night, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening.
See you, bye.
Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.